And I couldn't help but think about, like, the way they was talking about September 11th. It was all, just the biggest travesty to the world. People died. What we gonna do? Send bombs, shoot this, kill that. But the whole time I'm in 7th grade, I'm thinking to myself, like, what about that kid that's waiting on their parent to come and pick them up that can't pick them up? Like, what about, some days I get up and I realize how many stories we tell just in that morning process. Mm-hmm. If something ever happened to you, what was that morning story like? And in 7th grade, I realized how real that was because I was in 7th grade. So that means the parents that were in that building, kids were probably in 7th grade, college, younger than me. And I'm thinking to myself, like, but they're not coming home. Like, at that time, I think my mother, we do a Wednesday night lineup where we eat just junk food and, talk and all get together and watch. That was a Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, at that moment, what was not about to happen that night?
So
that's never going to happen again.
Well, what it sounds like is, because, none of us are going to debate whether or not September 11th was terrible. We all agree it's terrible. But what it sounds like with you is that in 7th grade, you recognize that death or separation, destruction was already around, that it was in the midst, and that as much as that was a big deal, you were looking at your micro world. Like, right here and now, I'm in 7th grade, I want to make it home, I want to still be able to have my meal, I want to see my family. And so the September 11th piece just seemed like it was so big and abstract on so many levels. But how does that get to storytelling? And how does that get to self-expression? And how does that get to spoken word? And thus to your radio station?
That catapults it all because I knew no one was going to purposely sit out and tell a story that where I was from.
Okay.
Like, I knew nobody was going to say it.
So you saying you was taking in September 11th differently than the rest of the world?
Yeah, the rest of the world, comedians, everybody, during that time, music, everything was just so, let's lift up the spirits. But I'm like, if I had to tell this kid's story, because they made us do a pen pal, and at the time,
was somebody from New York?
Yeah, from New York. As a kid, and the school I attended, they made us do pen pals. So I wrote this kid, and they got letters back. They never said who, kid, what, when, and why. But they were just like, I just never got back to, I just never could get back to them to say sorry for being upset with them this morning.
Okay.
And after I thought about that, I always loved music, but I knew I could say to certain things that I wouldn't necessarily can say in basic conversation. I can use metaphors of, sun, morning, night, and lights, and, put it into how I felt without, nobody really saying that's not right English or that's not proper such and so. Like, I knew I can play with a lot of stuff because I'm like, music do it all the time. Like, you really gonna yell at somebody in music say, that's not right, the sun does rise, it's not falling. No. So I'm like, as a kid, I thought that was cool, that you can play with words and manipulate it to whatever way you feel and just project it. Some words you can, not so good with, but others you can. And after that, I just did that, to tell somebody's story without saying their name. You have to just, tell the experience.
Okay, so we're going to fast forward some. Because now what I'm getting from it is a major incident happened and it made you aware of not only your immediate surroundings, but the world at large. And that urge happened. Some kind of strike struck you. And you needed to let the world know that, hey, there's a little voice over here that's processing all of this different. And I want to step forward and speak on behalf of them. So, you've named your radio station Foreign Exchange. Why?
It's the direct definition that I give for it is the exploration of an awkward exchange between life and art as it applies to spoken word art and rap music and R&B.
Okay.
I say that in foreign. And I really had to break that down because I didn't want to just use words because those are hot words to use right now. Foreign is a popular trending word.
Is it?
Yes. Because everybody wants to say foreign something now. But I use that because I realize how much of language and conversation just is not understood. And nobody's taking the time out to understand it. Mm-hmm. So it's just hodgepodge to them. They like, I don't understand it. Let it go. Move forward. And to go forward, I had to say, I got to still have a dialogue with you at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. This is our exchange. So when I step to the mic, when I have interviews, when I, do forth with, all of my spoken word and music, I want you to understand this is why it sounds this way. Mm-hmm. This is the journey. This is the path. These are the mistakes. These are the choices. I'm very, I explain thoroughly in every piece that I, say my reasons in it.
Okay.
So I can expose you to who I am and what this is and what art and form that you are really understanding. Like, well, this is what never good enough really is. Like, ever being, processing the thought of somebody letting you down and you realizing, they nitpicking when they choose to be a part of you mm-hmm. or be a part of your life. And then you realize, what? It ain't about never being good enough for you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be good enough for myself. So those type of pieces and those type of deliverances, that's what I really focus on.
Okay. And so for what goal? Like at the end of it, because we're talking about purpose, what is the purpose of it? What do you hope to be the end goal of all of this?
The ultimate end goal to me is just knowing that they listen.
Okay.
It's not to become the famous rapper. I always admire Tupac and the storytelling that Tupac delivered every single time. Mm-hmm. I mean, from I Get Around to Brenda Got a Baby to Dear Mama, it was like, come on, for real?
You consider I Get Around as a great story?
I didn't say it was a great story.
You learned the protocol with that one.
No, I just
Brenda Had a Baby, Dear Mama, I get you.
But it's that platform, mm-hmm. Can be easily embraced if you happy with they listen. Mm-hmm. Like Pac, I never got the chance to say it, and a lot of us didn't. That some great artists, you was just glad that you listened. Mm-hmm. Like it don't, destruction don't have to come. Just be happy that you was able to listen and process these artists mm-hmm. as they, form and like. Oh my God, when you look back at, music and times, some artists are genius to us. Yeah. Because we just like, who knew at that time I would feel this way hundreds, 50, 30, 40 years later?
Well, I would say geniusly insightful. What I get scared of with artists is when they get sort of a godlike status. Mm. And that's when I get worried, where, there's God. And there are really smart, deep, reflective, interesting, provocative people who express themselves so well that they draw attention to themselves. And then there's God. And the two aren't the same. But sometimes we get people who sort of lump them in the same category. Okay, especially when they die. Then they just take on some sort of iconic thing where everything that came out their mouth was just good. So... all right. Well, this is a great time in your life. You've come back to what was, I guess, in a lot of ways, it's your first love in terms of the art format. And you left your first love for a while, and you apparently fallen deeply, deeply back in love, and you come in with a very mature perspective. And your radio station feels a lot like a gift. For people who may be emotionally stuck or frustrated or, sort of working through the aches and pains of dating and romance. Was that the intention? Or is that the result?
That's the result.
Okay.
The tensions are always easy because the beginning for me was just to say it. Okay. I just want to be able to say it. But now, as I see the listeners, pile in and people respond to it, I had one friend I had been trying to contact for a while, and she never could, respond because she was so caught up in life. And when she finally responds, she tells me that she's so in love with one particular piece because it explained everything. She's like, I can so relate. And I thought to myself, I said, I did it now. Because even when I'm gone, that you can listen to these words. My favorite saying, and I try to say it as much as anything, one day I will leave here. My words won't.
There you go. One day you'll leave here, your words won't. Well, I started, I put a little intro music for mostly every track I do.
All the tracks.
And I picked, this was called The People's Choice, and it's Do It Any Way You Want to Do It. Have you, or are you doing it any way that you want to do it?
Yeah, this time around is fun because I get to say it and do it as I please, and it scares me because you never know when I press upload what the response is going to be.
Wow, and there's great responsibility with that, is it not?
Yeah, and I'm, for my listeners that tune in all the time, it's my responsibility to them to deliver, that substance, that peak, that love, that, hurt, that, joy, that all of it.
So you feel like you want to give a quality product?
Always.
Okay.
And it's scary because some of it, I be going just raw blood tears, like I leave the blood on the track, and I'm scared because I'm like, if they notice this, it's going to get real. And they always responded well.
Well, they say the most incredible artists are incredibly passionate. They hate to leave the studio. They wake up, they sleep, eat, and drink it. I think the year that Aaliyah died in the plane crash, I don't know if you remember the video where she was in the fish tank. She was a mermaid. Mm-hmm. And Missy Elliott spoke to the fact that that shoot went late into the evening, and how she was just such a perfectionist. She kept redoing it. She just thought she could just get it a little bit better. And it sounds like a little bit of that kind of thinking, that mindset is in you as you have released your first radio station. Spoken word, 24/7, 365. You can download it. Put it on your desktop. You can put it on your iPod. Listen. You allow people to share. You post it on your Facebook page. And again, I'm sitting here with Lebrandon Hickey, and we're looking at your purpose. You finally have figured out this is definitely one purpose that you're driven to, which is foreign exchange radio. Any closing remarks as you wrap up?
Well, the best thing I can say, I had a great mentor, Wanda Evans-Brewer. I had, great friends to encourage me, teachers, chefs, Chef Mark to be exact.
Yeah.
Chef Russ for giving me Jurassic Park CDs and a notepad and telling me, do it, man.
Do it any way you want to do it. Do it any way you want.
Just that deliverance every time I do it, I remember all those people for years that listen.
Well, you've been listening to Beyond the Surface Radio with Dr. Wanda J. Evans-Brewer, and until we chat again, may you be safe in God's grace.